Welcome to Table Talk Reviews. I'm Matt Mitchell. In this video, I'll be previewing a board game inspired by Asian folklore about the Mid-Autumn Moon Festival. This is Moon Bunny, a game designed for 1 to 4 players by Pauline Kong and Marie Wong, and published by Hot Banana Games, the same team that brought us Steam Up, A Feast of Dim Sum. If you're unfamiliar with that, I'll have my video linked on screen. Let me show you how to play Moon Bunny, and then I'll share my thoughts. Moon Bunny is all about moving your bunnies around the board to collect recipes, as well as the herbs to fulfill those recipes. To set up the game, place the moon board with the side face up for your number of players. Fill in all spaces with this icon, with tiles with the recipe side face up, and all other spaces with the herb side face up. For 2 or less players, remove 18 random tiles from the game. Give each player 2 recipe tiles. If any of them have this small black diamond, replace them with a new recipe. Depending on your player count, create a stack of 12, 16, or 18 tiles with the recipe side face up. Take all the remaining tiles and shuffle in a number of crater tiles and recipe replacement tiles based on your player count as indicated in the table in the rulebook. For 4 players, you'll use both recipe tiles and all of the crater tiles. Place these stacks near the board forming the supply, and create a supply pile of delicious mooncakes. Place the lounge board on the table and shuffle the stack of scroll tiles. For 3 or more players, place 6 scroll tiles in the indicated spots on the lounge board. For the solo or 2-player game, only place 4. The rest of the scroll tiles can go back to the box. They will not be used during the game. Give each player a workshop board, reference card, and the 2 bunnies matching the color of their workshop. The dashing bunny marked with the arrow icon will be placed on the lounge board, and the hopping bunny marked with the 3 squares will be placed on the corner of the moon board closest to that player. The player who most recently visited the moon will take the first player marker, and then starting with the first player, all players will take one of the 2 recipe tiles they were given during setup and place one onto the lounge board. These are public goals that can be completed by all players. Their other recipe tile will go in the storage space on their workshop. On your turn, you will move your bunny and place the tile where it ends into your workshop and refill empty spaces on the moon board. The bunnies cannot move through other bunnies or end on the same space as another bunny. And when moving off the edge of the moon board, they will wrap around to the opposite side of the moon. The hopping bunny moves exactly 3 spaces orthogonally, that means not diagonally, and can never end its movement on a tile adjacent to its starting space. Additionally, it cannot hop back onto a tile it previously hopped on. So here it could move 1, 2, 3, and end here to take this tile and place it in its workshop. The dashing bunny can move as many spaces in one orthogonal direction, including ending on a space adjacent to its starting location. So I could move all the way down here and collect this recipe. The tile your bunny ends its movement on will then be placed into your workshop. The first tile is placed in one of the 4 starting spaces, and all tiles after that will be placed with at least one side touching a previously placed tile. With the exception of the 4 starting tiles, no tile can be placed below the edge of your workshop. This is not valid, and this is not valid. When you place a tile with one of these mooncake icons, you will place a mooncake on that tile. These can be later spent for some optional actions. As you place tiles, if you ever place an herb and fully surround a recipe with herbs, you will immediately get a bonus turn. The edges of the starting spaces are considered fulfilled, so this would also give me a bonus turn. However, if a recipe tile is used to surround another recipe tile, this will not grant you a bonus turn. If placing an herb surrounds 2 recipes in the same turn, you will gain 2 bonus turns. Similarly, if you surround a recipe tile with herbs on your bonus turn, you will get an additional bonus turn. When placing a tile collected from the moon, you can place it into your storage if this space is empty. It can only hold one tile, either an herb or a recipe tile. It is an optional action anytime on your turn to place the tile from your storage into your workshop. At the end of each turn, including bonus turns, fill in empty spaces on the moon board. If the empty space has a recipe icon, fill it in with a recipe tile from the supply. Otherwise, take a tile from the herb stacks and place it in that space. If you draw a crater tile, this space will no longer have herbs, and a bunny can never end its movement on this space, but it can move through this space. If you draw a recipe placement tile, this permanently modifies that space to be a recipe location. Immediately fill it with a recipe tile from the stack. In addition to the standard actions of your turn, you have the option to spend one mooncake on a tile from your workshop to purchase a scroll from the lounge board, or swap your bunny on the moon with the bunny on the lounge board. Players can only have one bunny of their color on the moon at any time. Purchased scrolls can be used immediately or kept for a later turn. These scrolls will never replenish, so purchase them while they're available. Any scrolls that move your bunny, such as this one that moves your bunny one space orthogonally, can be used before or after its regular movement, obeying all movement rules. You still cannot end adjacent to your starting space, and you will only take and place one tile after all movement has been done. These are all 6 scroll tiles you might see in a game. This one moves your bunny one space diagonally. This one moves your bunny one space orthogonally. This one lets you replace one of the recipe tiles on the moon with a new recipe tile from the stack. Similarly, this one is for replacing herb tiles on the moon. This lets you swap 2 herb tiles on the moon, and this lets you swap 2 herb tiles in your workshop. When the supply of herb tiles or recipe tiles is depleted, finish the current round and play one more round and then proceed to scoring. Players will then score points for the private recipes in their workshop and the public recipes on the lounge board. Uneaten mooncakes in your workshop, not your storage, will score 1 point each. So this player will get 2. Not 3. Recipe tiles with the number in the corner will be satisfied once and score the indicated amount of points, whereas recipe tiles with a number in the center and a slash will score that many points for each of the indicated criteria. For example, this player will score 2 points for these 2 purple herbs, and this one will score 3 points for the 3 lotus flowers. In this case, I have 0 ginseng, and my opponent had 1 ginseng, so I will gain 6 points. You'll find a full reference of all the recipe tiles in the back of the rulebook, but here are a few more examples. This tile requires at least 3 goji berries. This tile will score 3 points for each pair of matching herbs. Some tiles require adjacency, such as this, which scores 3 points for each dragon's eye adjacent to this recipe tile. And the player with the most points wins the game. Now, there are a lot of tile placement games out there, but the unique thing I found about Moon Bunny was that there are 2 separate but connected puzzles. You have the movement puzzle of how do I get the tiles I need while following the restrictive movement rules of each bunny. And then there's the actual placement puzzle of trying to get tiles adjacent to the particular recipes or get them in a row, depending on which recipes you collect. And I didn't really show it in the how to play, but there's a ton of different scoring tiles. All 108 tiles have a recipe side, so that's a fair bit of variety. Something else I couldn't show in the how to play section was that the box is actually designed to mimic the packaging of mooncakes, which adds a thematic flavor, but also allows you to store your game box vertically with no lid lift. As this is a preview, I'm not going to go over the components too much because this was a prototype copy and there are nicer and squishier components on the Kickstarter campaign. A couple things I really enjoyed about the game were the swapping of bunnies. It costs 1 mooncake, which is a point at the end of the game if you don't do it. So at first it feels like I'm just going to try to make do with my hopping bunny, moving exactly 3 spaces and just be limited to the tiles that I can get to on my turn. But especially in a 4-player game, as more craters come out, you really start to have almost no choice, and you need to make that switch to your dashing bunny. And maybe switching to the dashing bunny earlier might be more advantageous. It's really hard to say. That's something I'll discover with more plays. The other thing I really liked was the chaining of bonus turns. If you position your recipe tiles just right, you can have them ready to see when a tile is going to come out and place the tile you select on your turn so that you have first access to that tile. And then you can chain multiple turns potentially, and when you do that to complete a bunch of recipe scoring goals, it's really satisfying. My only real critique of the game is that the tile stacks get a little bit unwieldy. You have to split them into smaller stacks, and then you gotta make sure that people are drawing from the top stack and not any stack, because they might be putting a tile out there that they want. Of course, you could just put them all in a bag, but then you lose that knowledge of the top tile on the stack, which is useful for when you want to take your bonus turns. Do I take it now? I can see what's coming out. Maybe I shouldn't take it. But this is really just a minor nitpick. When it all comes together, Moon Bunny is a great game for families and gamers alike. The colorful components and cute bunnies will attract players to your table, and there's a lot of scoring variety to keep the game fresh over multiple plays. That's all for this video. If you've made it this far, please subscribe to my channel. I think you'll enjoy what you see, and I'll see you in the next video.